The immortal John Hancock here, and I'm honored to have developer Chris Lincoln and good friend. Chris, glad to have you on the channel.
Hi.
Chris is here to talk about his new work and his new ROM hack of a Castlevania game.
Yeah, I haven't showed this online or anywhere yet, so I just wanted to wait till the time was right and it was special. So what this is a full-scale ROM hack of the original Castlevania, which has essentially been created into its own game. So instead of, let's see here, if I push start, you can really see it. You can choose your own level as you go through, rather than just linearly progressing through the levels.
That's cool.
So you have 5 stages initially to select from, which are all various stages from original Castlevania games from the NES area. And after completing each stage, you get an item, which is a relic. What the title of the game is about, the Holy Relics. And each of these gives you a really special power, like refueling energy, getting lots of points for whipping enemies, and getting super powered whips and being invisible and stuff like that.
Cool.
So I'm just going to go the default stage here, which is the woods stage.
Awesome.
And go from there. And you can select the relics on the bottom when you start collecting, but you
nice.
have the default one, which is the cross that kills all the enemies on the screen.
Oh, cool.
And all these items on the bottom are unused graphics from the original Castlevania game. I think they appeared in the Vampire Killer from MSX, but
okay.
I decided to, give them a nod. And
that's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll turn up so you hear the music a little bit.
Yeah, the music is original. 2 of the songs are original in this game, but most of them are borrowed from other Castlevania games, Castlevania 2 and 3.
Cool. So how long did you work on this?
I'd say I've been working on this since the start of the year, January, so about 7 months from zero to this. I mean, really, some of the music and the graphics were there. I'd say like half the graphics were there, and most of the music and the sound was there. But everything else from that, like all, doing all the levels and stuff, and all the programming has been the last 7 months.
So this is not your first. This is not your first hack of a Castlevania game. Why don't you tell people to watch this, kind of your background with that?
I made a Castlevania hack 10 years ago called Chorus of Mysteries, and that's where I started from. And I had to go back and look at Castlevania code, 10 years from then. And figure out what did I do. Fortunately, I made a couple of nice documents on it online, and that helped a lot, actually, going back from 10 years ago. So really document your stuff. You never know when you're going to come back to something like Castlevania. I've also done Castlevania hacking on Simon's Quest and Dracula's Curse as well, very extensively. And those projects haven't been finished, so
awesome.
Because they took so long. But nonetheless, I'm pretty much the go-to guy when it comes to Castlevania code, I'd say.
That's awesome. So what kind of drove you to the Castlevania game and to hack it? Was there anything in particular?
I'd say back in the day when I was first starting out with ROM hacks, they had a really good editor for this game called Stake, and you could drag and drop and color all the levels really easily, and it was just really fun to play around with, and I just kind of went from there and chose Castlevania.
Alright, so this is the first boss?
Yeah, this is the first boss. He's kind of goes up and down and shoots little spider webs at you, and you gotta figure out how to deal with them. I've got holy water. It's not the most amazing thing against this guy, unless I can trap him on the bottom there. Alright. I call myself a Castlevania person. Got 1 power left. I think I can recover if I'm careful. Well, oh well.
That's alright.
Yeah, so in this game, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the gameplay, but instead of progressing like you normally would, you have to collect keys to get through the door. And you know, that wasn't in the original Castlevania. You always had like a door, but it wasn't really like integral to the gameplay, except in, I think, the original Vampire Killer. And I really wanted this game to feel like a sequel to Vampire Killer.
Which is the MSX version of Castlevania.
Right, yeah. Alright, I'll do better. I got this weapon here, it's the oak stake. I replaced the dagger with the oak stake because nobody likes the dagger. It's a really weak weapon, and so this one has a lot of power, but it's really slow, so you have to aim it just right, and if you do, you can do massive damage to the boss. If you'll come down here. Yeah, sometimes I get worried if this guy's ever going to wander off the screen or something. I at least expect it, so... Oh man, he's way up there. Alright, come down so I can nail you. There we go.
Oh yeah, it does decent damage.
Yeah, I hit him twice, he's already halfway down, so...
How much hearts does the oak stake take?
1, so you just have to aim it, and it's
Nice.
pretty useless in most of the game, but in boss fights it'll be a really big deal.
So you just collected a relic.
Yeah, I just collected the Crown Relic.
Okay, and what does that relic do?
The Crown Relic is gives you whip really strong power for a very temporary amount of time. So it's like the oak stake version of the whip. So I'll just go to another stage
Yeah.
here. Let me see if I can select. How do I? The start button. I'm using an Ouya controller. I'm not
Ouya.
used to it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Alright.
easy way to showcase stuff, yeah.
Alright, so this is kind of like a Simon's Quest looking background here with the music.
Awesome.
And this level, Deborah Cliff, infamous for the ducking secret. But in this game, there are little treasures you can pick up that are like special items, and if you can collect them all at the end of the game, you get a special message. So here's one right
Nice.
here, and they're hidden throughout the game like that.
So this is not just a simple hack of the first game, it's taking various aspects of Castlevania 1 and 2.
Yeah, and maybe even 3, but like throughout the series, pretty much in the NES.
Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite Castlevania?
I think the third one is the one that really is so well done and polished, and it has the highest amount of quantity of quality, if you would say. A really epic game. But I do love the originality of the first game and the artistic prowess of the second game. Alright. Let's see. So right here is a key that you pick up that you need to go through the door. So I'm just going to see if I can get that first. So I had to go back down, and now I have to backtrack and go through. So I tried to like come up with little ways to add and extend the gameplay and strategy of how to get through these levels, and that was just one example there.
That's cool.
Let's see.
Such iconic music.
Yeah, I think I've remixed Bloody Tears like 4 times on the NES now, so it's really easy to do, so that's why I tend to have it in a lot of Castlevania games. And it doesn't eat up a lot of memory, surprisingly, in the music banks.
It's one thing that really stands out. I've shared this memory before, but Castlevania was essentially the first Nintendo game I played when my parents rented Nintendo Entertainment System back in '87.
Right.
So Castlevania to me has a special place, and to see someone so passionate about it and to take time to give back to people, you know, an extensive hack such as this, you know, and among many other things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think Castlevania was the first game we had on the NES as well, back in around that time, '87.
'87 was really when I think Nintendo started picking momentum up nationwide. You know, it was
Right.
out in '86, but really it really started picking up steam in '87.
Right.
That's where I remember it. Ah, good old birds. Birds are always really, really tough enemies in games. Oh, nice. Another secret there.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if I wanted to drop anything. They always drop those like little hunchback dudes, and right now they're just not in there right now, probably because I didn't code it. But you know, it is what it is. So. Let's see.
So you're in like a cave.
Yeah, this is like a cave. Alright.
Those flaming skulls, is that like where the Medusa heads used to be?
Yeah, that is. They're a little bit different here in that they
Oh,
That
nice.
was a fortunate.
Very fortunate.
Yeah, a little different in that they have different speeds, and like these skeletons going around are actually what used to be the zombies, but they're really slow. You probably wouldn't be able to tell. Here's a key in a room I don't need a key, but I'll pick it up anyway.
Alright. How much do you, when you make something, how many hours do you think you've had to play test and to get to this point with a hack? Like,
A lot. Testing is a lot, and there are a lot of strategies to really reduce the need to test, and that's a really big thing when it comes to time management, is knowing it like cheats in the game, like cheat values, so you can plug those in instead of like playing all the way to the end of the level. Like knowing the cheat value for this room, for example, is very helpful instead of like playing from like the beginning of the game, and you know, the items you have, it just really reduces the testing time. I'd say like Course of Mysteries, I didn't really do that a lot, but with this game I did, and I think you develop a lot quicker and better knowing that information.
Is there any forums that you use to like share your code with friends, or was this all like privately shared with other developers of just like, hey, what do you think of this, or feedback?
Yeah, romhacking.net is usually where I go.
Okay.
For that kind of thing. And
coffee.
Right, coffee, totally. Yeah, I'd say definitely romhacking.net is the best place to really get networked with other ROM hackers for sure. But if you're homebrewing, I'd say NestDev or Nintendo Age or one of those places. There's a lot of people who do that there.
That's cool. I really appreciate you like taking your time out. Is there anything else you'd like to show us?
I brought over some other projects I've been working on the last couple of years.
Anything you want to show us? Yeah.
Yeah, first let's show you Pyronite, because people are always asking me about Pyronite, which is this big hack of Castlevania 2 that's totally its own game, not even Castlevania related, but it plays a lot more like Metroid, which you're this guy, I guess I could just show it, with a fire weapon.
Okay.
And I've had a video of the demo up on YouTube almost 3 years ago now, but that was the last video I put up, and where it showed this screen and whatnot with all the characters. So I'm just going to go ahead and play. And
cool.
MT did all the graphics for this.
MT worked on Callous Gamers Adventure and Callous Gamers Adventure 2, which is going to be coming out this upcoming year.
Right, and the work we put into this game is like half the work we've ever done. So I don't know about him, but for me, for sure, this has been like an ongoing saga for 4 years. But I haven't worked on it in 2 years because I've had to focus on smaller projects that could get done quickly, and I wasn't going to be able to get this done with how my life was working out at the same time.
Oh yeah, I know how that is.
And I wanted it done, and we planned to get it done like in a year from that point, and it just wasn't going to happen. But we will go back to this. It's just a matter of when we get the opportunity.
Okay.
And
all right, so we got Pyronite here, and Pyronite is a significant hack of Simon's Quest.
Yeah, it is Simon's Quest.
And it's playing it myself. It's like playing a new game. You can't, like, to me, I play it. I can't tell that you got any resources from Simon's Quest.
What in the Simon's Quest would you guess that even is?
Yeah. So what is the advantages of using like an engine from a game? What are the benefits for maybe people that don't know?
Is a good question. Typically, the benefits do not outweigh the negatives in this case, for sure. It gives you a whole, framework to work with, assuming you know how all the objects in the game work. Like I worked on Castlevania and Castlevania 3 before going to Castlevania 2, so I had a pretty good idea. But still, at the same time, if you're going for something like this extensive, it would not be a good idea to go. And that's kind of been the learning experience for me. And I did it that way because I wanted to do it that way, and it was the way I knew how to do it. So, will I do it again? No, I won't do it again that way. So, but it's been a fun thing to do because I don't think anyone's ever done something like this at this level in this particular case. So.
Are any older versions of this game available for people to play?
No, there's no demo currently available.
Okay. Exclusive on my channel.
Exclusive on your channel, right? I don't think it's really anyone's really been seen playing with it on videos.
No, that's great.
Yeah. The last thing I worked on was a boss fight 2 years ago. That was crazy programming. MT sends all these requirements on the design of like bosses and stuff, and he challenges me and pushes me to, really see if it can be done. And I like doing it, and then sometimes I'm just like, I can't do this part, it's a lot of fun to do.
He's a great person to work with. He's done a lot of work for Callous Gamers for Kids. He's another developer and programmer, and I'm lucky to live in the Northwest and having access to connections of people that, such as yourself, that are so gifted that make wonderful games for people to play. And I think people don't realize how much work goes into projects like this. And a lot of times people enjoy the fruits of things that are released, but there's so much work out there that never gets published. Right. And so this is what's been the biggest challenge with Pyronite.
The biggest challenge is figuring out a way to really legitimize something that's a ROM hack, but at the same time is, your personal work. So yeah. I think there's always that stress, like, oh no, am I breaking the law? Am I, how could I sell this? Am I going to sell it, or I'm just going to, I would think, if anything, people will know who you are if you make something like this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that, but there's also, working in a hex editor is terrible, I think. Programming this thing entirely in hex, I think it's fun and it's challenging. It's almost like playing a video game, like where you're trying to solve math problems. A really bad video game, but there are things with the software in this game, and I guess this is more about like pushing the Castlevania 2 engine to the limits. Optimization. Right, because there are some performance issues with me, like really pushing this engine to the limit. Yeah, sure. So
what has been the biggest challenge for Pyronite? That question?
Yeah, the biggest challenge for Pyronite has been the performance issues. There are 3 really big performance issues with this game. Number 1 is the sprite flickering, and there's eventually you get this power up that's a flamethrower, and there's a lot of sprite flickering. I mean, this is like NES's usual kind of stuff, but we've really had a hard time tackling that and coming up with clever ways to reduce that. There's an alternate patch of this game where the gun shot flickers and it saves about half of the scan line worth of flickering, so that's been one big issue. Another big issue is there are random attribute glitches that happen a lot with the way we design this game. Simon's Quest, I think, was set up in a way where you could only use 3 background palettes, or else the game would start glitching out. But here we're using all 4, so I had to come up with some clever programming to really reduce that as much as possible. And from what I'm seeing right here on the screen, I haven't seen a single one, so that's really made me happy so far.
And it's running on the Ouya, so...
maybe it's because it's running on an Ouya and it's cheating the system. I really don't know. I haven't seen any sprite flickering.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm
guessing that's the Ouya too, but...
Yeah, probably. I mean, there's some neat things that what I like about people playing in an emulator, especially as a developer, that I bet you could attest by saying it's really nice to play something. I don't have to burn it to a chip like the old days.
Right.
And so
emulation has made testing so easy. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, would you like to do anything else?
I was going to say one more performance issue. Yeah, was the game runs really sluggishly. So I had to come up with ways to, limit some things to make it, run quicker. And one thing I really did was I limited the amount of time collision could be addressed on the screen.
Okay.
Where every other cycle, for example, your gun bullets, they're a maximum of 3, and then I made it say every 4 cycles in the NMI, you would only read one of those for collision, because it's such a minute amount of time that if it connects with an enemy or a block, it's going to disappear anyway within that time period. So every 4, there's 1 for each bullet, and then on the 4th one, I believe, is for the player itself. So,
okay.
Yeah, so,
Interesting. Little tricks like that, too.
Yeah, not running, on-screen collision all the time. Every cycle will reduce the performance problems.
Cool.
So that was... And you would never want to think to do that, because you should never have your game running that sluggishly to begin with. But, another thing was the screen would lock in the original Simon's Quest, like if you jumped. I don't know if you remember something like that.
Yeah, it was one room at a time. You would be in a room, move around, go to the next screen, move over. And
after you jump and you landed, then the screen would pan up like that.
Yes.
In this game, I removed that. And what I've learned is that, especially in the big, expansive, multi-scrolling rooms, it really slows down the game. So that must have been a reason why they programmed it that way. But, I'm having a fun time handling it and making it run a lot better. So
I was going to say, is there anything else you'd like to show?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I have a Homebrew, actually. And, this hasn't had a lot of advertising either, kind of like the Holy Relics. And, I wanted to wait till the time was right to really start, getting that up in advertising. And so what this is something I've been working on since last year.
Okay.
I worked on most of it last year, and worked on the Holy Relics at the start of this year. And then once that gets done, I'll come back to this. And this is it. This is Relic, which is kind of like a Super Mario side-scroller, full-blown side-scroller game, that kind of vein, and programmed from the ground up. So
wow.
Once I learned how to get enough information about how to make my own game, after like 10 plus years of ROM hacking, I figured, okay, why not? What the heck? And I could work on that and then come back to another project. So there's no sound right now.
Okay.
That's one thing that's missing. And the other thing is I still have to make all the levels. There's probably about 3 or 4 playable levels right now.
Wow, it's cool. It looks like it's plays pretty fluid.
Right, yeah. I had some people test play it at some of the retro gaming expos here in the Northwest. And they liked the controls a lot, and I was happy to, I would come back and, tweak a little things, what they said feedback-wise. And the key mechanic to this game is this rolling mechanic, and people say, oh, it looks like the morph ball from Metroid or Sonic the Hedgehog or something, but you use it to really get through different parts of the game, and there are advantages to using it, like you can fit in little spaces like this, and you can bounce around a lot is the other thing, like this, and so sometimes it might be required to bounce to another part of the level.
So is your character a particular creature, something of its own?
Yeah, he's supposed to be a raccoon. It was something like, with a lot of alliteration, Raleigh the Rolling Raccoon or something like that. So that's what that's about.
So you collect the flowers to get different powers?
Right, yeah, you collect power-ups from the flowers, and, I had to come up with something like the question mark from Super Mario Brothers. That was really a huge deal that could be placed at any second in the game. A real difference maker.
Cool.
Yeah, so...
Really neat to see all this work. I mean, and so what has been like moving forward? When do you anticipate this to be done?
I'm working with a publisher right now called Megacat Studios. In very early stages. I haven't talked to them too much about it, but we're trying to see if we can get this released in the earlier part of next year, is what I'd say is most realistic. And I would say we would want to have a Kickstarter probably the early part of that next year too.
So wow, that's great. I'm really glad that you were able to come on my channel and showcase all your stuff. Chris, where can people find you?
They can find me on YouTube. Optomon is my name there.
Okay.
I also am working on a website called Optovania.
Okay.
And I have a bunch of my projects there, and I'm trying to get up some kind of a dev blog and other features, maybe for networking, and I'm working on that called Optovania.com.
Okay. And that's up right now?
It's up right now. It's kind of in a rough draft form, but it's getting there. So, you know, a lot of big mini projects like that going on at once, you know, in addition to all the video games. So, you know, that's the life of an indie developer, I guess.
Well, thanks for being on the channel.
Yeah.
And I want to thank everybody that's taken time out of their day. This was kind of an informal video. Chris saw the video I did of the Earthbound prototype, and I really like these types of conversations and just showcasing some unreleased footage of some indie games. It's really neat to share and I appreciate sharing your love and your passion for video games with me and with my channel, and really look forward to seeing some of the stuff get published. So thank you so much.
All right, sure.
I do 3 videos a week, one on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, typically uploading at 8 o'clock a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. This is the immortal John Hancock. Take care.